you don't know how many tomorrows you got. So just for today, you got to be able to love yourself, love life, and do what you can each day to be able to have that balance.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good afternoon, Gary Loper. Previously, episode 772 of the 12-Minute Convos podcast. It's been just 3 years, 2 months, 1 day, 18 hours, and 45 minutes since we last recorded that conversation. Thankfully, I got to reconnect with Gary on the 3rd of September 2018 when we were on our road trip. Got to meet this guy face to face. He's real and an amazing individual to have conversations with. Gary, how are you doing today? How's your wife going?
The disease that she has is kind of a snowflake disease. Nobody ever actually gets it the same way. She's had, continual symptoms for the last 7 years. I don't know what the best way to describe it. She's got fatigue. So, if we go out for an hour or something, like go grocery shopping, she'll just be exhausted after that. And there's sometimes she can't sleep. We were just talking the other day, it's like, just the progression over the last couple of years was that, she was working full time and coming home and working on the business and doing all the graphics and building the website and all those other things. And she just said now, she doesn't have any energy to, even start a graphic thing.
And how are you making out with all of this? How does Gary balance everything?
Well, we've been walking, doing a lot of things. I really think that everything in life really sort of prepares us for what we're supposed to be doing next. And I had worked with people with disabilities for a number of years. So moving to acceptance was an easier thing for me because I was able to see where she's at and not being able to expect any more. And when she's tired is, you got to be able to believe her. And, I think that's the biggest thing, especially with her condition, is that if you didn't know that she was sick, you may not see it in her unless you're able to look at her and be able to see, her energy being depleted and going through there. So a lot of times and a lot of people and a lot of families, especially with a lot of MG patients, they always say their families kind of don't believe them because, they may not be in a wheelchair. They may be on a lot of different things. So they can't see it to be able to relate it to a similar condition that they know of.
It's like mental illness, right? I mean, if someone's mentally ill and you can't see inside their brain, right? But it's a real thing.
And that's a good analogy because I know that I've dealt with depression myself over a long time. So again, I think that's part of the preparation is like, people can't see it. You can put on a happy face when you go out in public and go through there, but you just have to be able to take it a day at a time. That's, it really comes to be more important. The affirmations that I came up with, the just for today affirmations, I got a lot of those on Twitter, and it's just, it becomes really, really more apparent that it's just have to take things just a day at a time.
It's been important, isn't it, to love, because you and I both know that influence is required for someone to actualize that they need to make a decision to change. But that is something that's not forced. You could attempt to force it, right? You could be the person, you need to be better now, right? You could do that, but it only goes so far, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't go very far. And that's one of the things, I've learned that in a lot of my relationships is I probably was a rescuer. And I would see damsels in distress, but they didn't know that they were in distress. So then they just see that as you're trying to control them. In coaching or anything, and in relationships kind of stuff, is you have to be able to work with the willing. And so that's one of the things, too, is I'm really glad that, Carol's opened up to the thing is like, when she starts having some bad days or some of the emotional stuff like that, you give her some room. But if she starts spiraling down too far, it's like, okay, no, we got to pull you back.
It's love. It's the
Yeah.
version of life, of love, that many people do not want to interact with. Immediately, I think about you get married and you hear for better or for worse, but somehow the worst part doesn't even fade you. Like, even though the words are said right after the next, right? For better
Mhm.
or for worse, we think that it's always going to be love for the better. Isn't that accurate?
I think so. I think people do that, and I think that's part of the, maybe some of the lack in training a little bit is that we don't train our children, or we weren't taught on how to be able to deal with adversities, death and dying, or sickness, or even to be able to have a disagreement without having to throw the relationship away.
Hmm.
I think, people have just got to that point now, they don't want to deal with anybody else's stuff. And so they just, okay, well, this is just too much. So I'm gone.
Yeah, it's remarkable because with the podcast, I'm finding that there are so many takeaways that can be applied in real life, so many principles. And it's getting up here to have a conversation. And in the midst of it, you never know where someone is. But within that, within relationships, it's very similar, where you never know where someone is. And it is expected that you would know, right? You're thinking that you should know. I mean, even though you're closer to the person, it seems as though it's even harder to look in sometimes.
It is, but early on with, a lot of the studying that I had done, you know, several of the books that I read really focused on showing, giving me the mindset that you're drawn together for the relationship because the sunshine balloons and all of that physical attraction and all those endorphins and stuff that go on. But really, on a soul level, you're here to be able to help each other be able to heal your wounds.
Hmm.
And you just have to be able to create a safe enough place that people can be able to feel secure to be able to unpack their baggage. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want anybody with baggage." Well, we all got baggage,
Hmm.
and we just have to create a safe place to let people unpack it and go through there and realize that if we do that for them, there's probably a better chance that they're going to do it for us. But I
Hmm.
think that's one of the key missing things too, is that people are always waiting for somebody to do it to them first, instead of realizing that you have to be able to give before you can get.
Yeah, Zig really opened it up well.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he said, help enough other people get what they want. Some people have turned that statement to, all right, I'm going to help 10 people and then I'm going to get something. But I really believe the essence of what he was explaining there is, yeah, help enough other people get what they want and it works, right? It's not that you're going to get it from them,
Nope.
yeah, but it
Yeah.
will come back.
And Bob Berg in The Go-Giver sort of really expanded upon that, where he talked about his law of left field.
Yeah.
And it's from unexpected places, unexpected time, and unexpected ways. So you just give for the sake of giving, and it may not come back. And and then you have to be able to realize, okay, is this the right relationship for you? This is another lesson that I picked up in, the Conversations with God book. Your purpose on life here is to be able to become the best version of you that you could possibly be. In a relationship, the only thing changes is that you are supposed to be able to support the other person to be their best version of themselves. Now, where the cutoff line could be is if you can't be your best by helping them be their best, then that's not the right relationship. So the great relationships are the ones that really, you get to a point where you can be able to really help each other become the best that each one of you can be, and realize that there's going to be bumps. And that's a retraining thing, because, in a number of my situations in the past, if there was an argument or something else, or something didn't turn out the way that somebody else wanted, my relation, I was sort of abandoned and just tossed out. And then you sort of get that training. It's like, okay, well, I'll never want to open myself up again. But you just realize, okay, this was just a relationship for a season.
Yeah, we had someone on, Andrea Hill, and she helps put people together, right? Date coaching. But she didn't have a relationship with someone, and she said someone called her out on that, right? And she got back into a relationship, and it was important. But it really comes to that voice and discerning which voice you're going to follow. Even the concept of conversations with God, right? That voice is so important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But one of the things that I've looked at too in relationships is, getting back to that, was that I believe that relationships, we're into them for a reason, season, or a lifetime. And there are very few of these relationships that are going to really last a lifetime. So most of them are going to be for a reason. And we may not know the reason. Again, we're giving for the sake of giving, and knowing that somewhere it's going to be able to help you. How many times do you have a teacher or something that a teacher said, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago? Their wisdom was shared to you, and you may not have realized it until the time where you need it. But sometimes I think, we're just around planting seeds, kind of Johnny Appleseed, just throwing out seeds, and in time, some of them will take.
Well, Gary, I can tell you, my friend, it's such a grand opportunity to call and have a conversation with you. I appreciate the love that you share, my friend. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, I think, some of the things, in the last year or so, I've taken a step back from my online business to be able to create a little bit more of a life balance, to be able to, take time and enjoy the time that I have with Carol, and being able to celebrate the things that we have acquired, and being able to, but I realize that everybody's motivated, and everybody's motivated differently. I was able to recognize that my internal rewards are relationships, and being able to have those connections. So that was really important to me, and realizing to be able to go and bust my butt on a business for 10, 20 hours a day to be able to do something. And that was taking me away from the love that I needed to feel. So I think people really just need to be able to see what motivates you, and make sure that you be able to find a balance, because somebody in your family, somebody close to you, could have an accident, attract a disease, and you don't know how many tomorrows you got. So just for today, you got to be able to love them, love yourself, love life, and do what you can each day to be able to have that balance.
Gary Loper, folks. Again, a pleasure I treasure. Thanks for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Pod Edits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.